Hi everybody, welcome to the second week of this week's news. I am honored because they have actually named this segment Big Time Paranormal. So it makes it a lot easier because I have such a bad memory. So we have a lot to cover, so we're going to just get into the news right away. One of the biggest news stories, and I'm sure you've heard about it, and it's been all over the news, about the Pope retiring, okay? I would normally not bring it up, but the fact that there's a prophecy that goes with it, and perhaps some of you are familiar with it. St. Malachi, a Roman Catholic bishop who died in 1148, was on a pilgrimage, and he had a vision. And in this vision, he could see basically the popes from his time all the way up to our time. And the next pope that's supposed to go into office supposedly is supposed to be the last pope before Armageddon. Yeah, I know, Armageddon, we just had the Mayans and all that. But I do have a little bit more credence toward this because of the fact that the track record's there of them being able to predict basically each of the popes. This one is going to be known as Peter the Roman, so this says that he's probably Italian. Peter, we don't know if it's part of his birth name or if he's going to take on the name like Pope Peter, John Peter, Peter Paul Mary. I don't know, but we'll be keeping an eye on that for sure. But if we see Peter in the name, or that he's Italian, then we definitely going to be watching out for that. The next one is, we're going to have some space news. And this one is a comet that could hit Mars in 2014. This is predicted to go on October 19th. It's known as C/2013A1. What's so interesting about this is there's two things that could happen. One thing is that the comet could actually hit Mars, which some scientists believe it could happen. If it does, we're going to be able to see a planetary scale of devastation, and it will give us a kind of a framework for what's going to happen if one was to hit here on Earth. The second thing that could happen is that they're hoping at least Mars will pass through the tail. Being that they have the rovers on the ground and they have the satellites up in orbit, they're going to be able to at least measure everything, take pictures. So they're very excited about this. So it's still very early because the comet was just discovered, just very recent. So there's kind of bickering back and forth on which way it's going to go. So that would definitely be something we're going to watch. Another bit of space news is there is a multi-millionaire, Dennis Tito, he is partially funding a husband and wife to basically go to Mars. And they won't actually land on Mars. What they're going to do is they'll get in a capsule about the size of a small RV. They'll be sent out to space. And when they get to Mars, they're going to use the gravitational pull of the planet to slingshot them back to Earth. Now, they think that the mission would last about 501 days, which I believe that was 16 months, I think it was, they said. I don't know about you. I love my wife. I love her dearly. But you put her and I in a small cabin like that for 16 months, looking at each other for 24/7. By the time we got back to Earth, they opened up the hatch, we'd be dead from killing each other. So, I do love her. Now, another one. We were talking last week about what was going on in Russia with the meteor strike. Well, it was interesting because the local newspaper went ahead and did a poll amongst the people. And they asked them, do you believe the government when they tell you that it was a meteor strike or a meteor that exploded? Well, what's interesting is that just over half believe the government, The other half, not so much. They were saying it was an act of God. It was, you know, UFOs, you know, a chemical warfare. I mean, they believed everything else but what the government said. Now, you might say, well, that's silly. But you got to remember that a lot of these people remember what the Soviet Union was like. They were lying, and they just didn't believe them. So, not like our government. So, the next one is, oh, and by the way, 25% of the Russians believe there's UFOs. The next one is a curious story. You don't hear about these too often. Is spontaneous human combustion. This happened in Oklahoma. Smoke was coming out of the house, and when they went to check on the house, they found, well, the body incinerated. And now, when they actually looked, the ceiling had no burn marks. Nothing around the body was burnt, except for maybe the spot that he was actually sitting in. But I think I remember hearing that a body has to be, in the crematorium, they have to raise the heat something like 1,200 or 1,400 degrees for multiple hours just to incinerate the body. And this couldn't have happened like that. So they are not sure. So spontaneous combustion, we'll see. All I know is that I have spontaneous combustion when I go to Taco Bell. The next one is interesting. Last week I was going to have a story about Chupacabra, but we didn't have the time. This time we have a different story. This one's out of Puerto Rico. A husband and wife came home late, and the next morning the father, the husband, went outside to feed the chickens and so on. Well, he found the chickens and the hens all drained of blood with puncture marks in the back. And they thought maybe it was a jaguar, but they said, no, it can't be a jaguar because it would tore the bodies apart. So the wife actually believes it was Chupacabra just because of the drainage of the blood of small animals, which many of you that know the legend of Chupacabra knows that's what happens. This one is actually a story that comes out of the Bermuda Triangle, or pretty close to it. That's something we haven't heard for a while as well. It was 6 people disappeared last month in a twin-engine BN-2 Islander aircraft. It disappeared after 11 miles after it left the island. I thought I had saw something that maybe they had found some wreckage in the water. I don't know if that's the case. I haven't heard anything. But again, Bermuda Triangle, you don't hear stories like that anymore. So another story that was popped up in the news I saw this morning, which is actually Sunday, because you guys see it on Tuesday, but I got recorded on Sunday. Is it possible to return from the dead? A doctor was, and remember, I'm just skimming the surface of the stories. A doctor determined at what point the patient's actually dead and what point becomes impossible to revive them. It is now believed that the brain cells remain viable for as long as 8 hours after a person is otherwise declared clinically deceased. But finding a reliable way to resuscitate someone within this time frame remains a problem that scientists have yet to solve. So if they could actually come across a way to solve that problem, then obviously people have a better chance of surviving a drowning or you know, whatever. So we have that in the news. Now the next story is a pretty interesting story. It actually, I found it this morning. It's titled, Inventing a Computer That Never Crashes. University College London created this computer. It can repair itself and reprogram itself. Basically, regenerate itself. Now, they like the idea of this because of the simple fact is when you have robots, cars, computers, anything that has a computer chip in it, it'll be able to regenerate itself. Imagine how much it would save on money alone. You wouldn't have to worry about repairs. So that's one thing that's really become, it's just amazing how much technology has changed within the last few years. So yeah, the system is dubbed a systematic computer, the self-repairing machine now operating at University College London, UCL, could keep mission-critical systems working. So that's a huge jump in technology if they can actually repair themselves. So look for it at your local Best Buy or Radio Shack, wherever. Upcoming cons. These events, again, we spoke about most of them last week, but there's a few others that we found in between then and now. Of course, we're still talking about the True Paranormal LA Supernatural Summit in Santa Paula, California, and that's March 8th and 9th. That should be really exciting. I wish I could be there, but unfortunately I have to work. The paranormal investigation of the Yankee Peddler Inn, which is in Torrington, Connecticut, 93 Main Street. That's on March 9th. The event starts at 6:30 and ends at 11 the next morning. So you can check that out. The next one is actually a new one that we found. It's the Journey Psychic Fair. And this is in Mentor, Ohio, at the Residence Inn. And it's Friday, March 8th, Saturday, March 9th. If you're interested, you can call 440-223-1392. Again, Friday is from 1 to 9, and Saturday from 11 to 5. And of course, this is all about metaphysics and everything that goes along with it. Those of you that know about metaphysics know exactly what that would be. Another one's a new story, or a new con that I also found. It's a Texas Bigfoot Conference. The 12th annual Texas Bigfoot Conference will take place Saturday, March 16th. The Fort Worth Convention Center. It will run from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. So that is at the Sheraton Fort Worth Hotel. Well, you can stay at the Sheraton Fort Worth Hotel, but it's 2 blocks away from the convention center. And you could check that out. That sounds like a pretty interesting con as well. Of course, we also, last week we talked about the haunted Hensdale House, and that's March 23rd from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. And that's, you could just go to www.beyondghosts.com and you could get more information about that. Last week we also talked about the Missouri State Penitentiary, where some of the people from the sci-fi show Ghost Hunters are going to be there. And that is March 23rd from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. that they're going to do a meet and greet. And then later on in the night, the people that are hosting the event is going to actually do an investigation. So they'll be splitting up in groups again. And so I'm sure that will be actually a blast. Now, we also talked about Asylum 49. On March 23rd, Asylum 49 is having a public ghost hunt. It's the first of the season. You have to go to www.asylum49.com, the number 49, because they have different events throughout the year, not just one. So you can take a look, see what's out there. So that's the conventions that's going up until the end of March. Usually we want to do a shout out to a team or a group. In this case, we want to do a shout out to Sasha Hayden. She's out of Alaska, and she actually started a very good cause. It's called Paranormal Community Against Bullying. She started this, and she has people like Don Short out of Las Vegas supporting her. I think it's a very good cause. So if you want to check it out, go to Facebook and go to Paranormal Community Against Bullying. And I think you'll be very happy with supporting her. we support her completely here. So thank you, Shastra, for creating that. The next thing I want to talk about is the subject that we have. And this week I want to talk about this book, Everything Goes Hunting book by Melissa Martin Ellis. Now, when I couldn't get into any kind of team core group because they're all full, they weren't taking any members, I felt I still needed to learn how to do it. And this book has the history from England all the way here, the difference between the hauntings there versus here. It talks about the different kind of psychic abilities, so you can get familiar with that. But this really does have everything. So whether you're new or maybe you've been around for a while, it wouldn't hurt to pick this up to kind of refresh your memory on a few things. Maybe you've forgotten. It happens. We all forget something here and there. But I do recommend this book. So go to Amazon.com or to your local bookstore. And remember, Everything Goes Hunting book by Melissa Martin Ellis. Okay? Right there. Okay, so that's that one. We also want to do a shout out to, normally it would be a team, but there's actually a Facebook page that's really good. They have really good stories, and it's called Haunted Salem. So go onto Facebook, look for Haunted Salem, and like it. They have really good stories. I always enjoy reading them. Sometimes they kind of creep me out because they're really good. So we have that. So don't forget, I am on Big Time Paranormal on Facebook. You can find me there. I'm always updating every day, 2 or 3 times a day, depending on how much time I have. And always come back to this network. Worldwide Paranormal Network is going to be a great network, but we need your support. And we need you to tell others about it. So until next week, remember, today is your day. Go out and make it happen. See ya.